You're watching Eric in America. I'm Eric Harris. Now, in the past couple of days, I've released some statements that have put Ron Paul supporters up in arms just a bit. I want to take a second and talk about them. That way I can maybe clarify. I think Ron Paul is an excellent candidate. I think that his domestic policies are right on target. I think he's hitting the nail on the head when it comes to most domestic affairs. So I'm not even going to talk about him. What I do think is grossly short-sighted is his foreign policy. He wants to take all the troops out of Iraq, all the troops out of Afghanistan, all of our presence out of the Middle East. Now, I think that would be a crying shame, to be absolutely honest with you. Our troops are in the Middle East for two reasons. Number one, to protect our interests, and number two, to show American resolve. Now, if we fail in either one of those regards, then our future is in great peril. Here's how that works. Ronald Reagan said in order for a company to maintain its sovereignty, number one, it has to supply its own food, and number two, it has to be able to defend itself. If we withdraw from the world stage, then we lose market share in the world stage. And that means that not only do our allies think less of us, which I could really care less about, but our enemies think less of us. If our enemies think less of us, then they will try us more. Okay? And let me tell you that right there, in and of itself, means more war. That means more war than we have right now. But that aside, one of our interests in the Middle East is in fact oil. Now, of course, democracy is the other. Like I said, we've got oil and we've got Israel. But I want to focus on oil specifically. And I know there's an entire brigade of people out there that say no blood for oil, this war is about greed and things of that nature. But the fact is that even if America is energy dependent within the next 10 years, which by every means we should be, oil is still going to be a universally accepted currency and going to be the number one universally accepted currency the world over, which means that the hand that controls the spigot is the hand that rules the world. Look at countries like Saudi Arabia, who 50 years ago were third world countries, and today you've got bustling capitalist societies there. And that's due to the natural resource of oil. Now, we don't ship out as much oil as Middle Eastern countries do, but we broker just as much oil. And that's important. We supply infrastructure for as much oil, which is also important. If we give up that market share, if we give up that stake, then we lose a place in world economy, which means that these other countries continue to advance. They reap the economic benefits of it, and we don't. Okay? Now, here's how that's a problem. You run into the same thing that you had in Russia. Russia, you had the former Soviet Union, you had a society that had a defense budget that continued to grow. They were in an arms race with the U.S. Their defense budget never stopped. That's an expense that continues. As long as a country is to defend itself, then the defense costs money. But the problem was their economy could not support that growth, meaning that they did not have the industry. They didn't have the competitive marketplace in order to fund that. Okay, if we pull out of the Middle East, if we pull out of oil, then we lose our ability to defend ourselves. If we lose our ability to defend our borders, then we lose our sovereignty, plain and simple. And like I said, the hand that controls the spigot of oil is the hand that controls the world. And that's the ideology that's going to save my children and your children, my grandchildren and your grandchildren from sipping water out of mud puddles. And that's important to me. I don't know how important it is to you. But with that in mind, I think that Ron Paul is just a little short-sighted in his plea to withdraw American forces from the world stage. I'm Eric, and you're watching Eric in America.